The Resident Evil series has gone through many ups and downs. Long garnered as one of the best survival horror franchises, the last few entries have been met with lukewarm response. Following Resident Evil 6, Capcom decided to go back to the drawing board with its newest entry. Resident Evil 7 promises to bring back the thrills of survivor horror, pitting the player against overwhelming odds as they strictly manage their inventory and health to survive the abominations they will encounter. The Resident Evil universe is chock full of enemies ready to tear you to pieces, but the boss fights are what get your blood pumping, as these enemies force you to rethink your combat strategy so you don't deplete your resources. We expect the boss fights in Resident Evil 7 to be no different. With just a day to go until the game's release, let's take a look at some of the most memorable boss fights in Resident Evil history. The man who created the G-Virus deserves a spot on this list for his ferociousness in hunting down Leon, Claire, Ada, and even his own daughter Sherry. Birkin was betrayed by Umbrella after creating the follow-up to the T-Virus. Ambushed by mercenaries in his lab and left for dead, Birkin had no choice but to inject the lethal virus into himself, turning him into a ruthless abomination. His revenge was swift, but it came at the cost of smashing several G-Virus samples in the sewer and spreading it to the citizens of Raccoon City. You fight Birkin multiple times throughout the game, with each incarnation revealing a more grotesque version of the former scientist. He becomes so grotesque, in fact, that he eventually turns into a massive sarlacc pit-like creature with fangs and tentacles as he chases Leon and Claire onto a runaway train. It's a pulse-pounding finish to one of the best games of the generation and deserving of this list. Yawn was a genetically enhanced snake first found by the STARS Bravo team in the Spencer Mansion. The boss's introduction is legendary, unfurling its twisted body from the roof and revealing its gigantic fangs. Yawn snaps at you with ferocious speed. If you can manage not to get eaten whole, you've excelled where many have not. Unfortunately, many players are likely to get bitten, requiring you to search for more anti-venom before you die. It's a great fight that culminates into a second battle in the library and one for the history books. Resident Evil 4 was the tonal shift the series needed at the time. While many critics are quick to lambaste the game for introducing an action-heavy focus, Resident Evil 4 contains some memorable moments in the series, including the fight against Leon's former partner, Jack Krauser. Introduced fairly late into the game, Krauser works as a double agent for Wesker, infiltrating Sadler's compound and kidnapping the president's daughter, Ashley. Once he learns of Leon's involvement, he hunts down our favorite hero and engages in an intense knife battle. If you can survive the QuickTime event, you'll come across Krauser in his most dominant form. The Krauser battle is fast-paced and intense, which is a natural evolution for the series. Krauser's banter with Leon makes it all the more extreme as you know these two characters have a deep-seated hatred for each other. You first meet the tyrant BOW at the Spencer Mansion in Resident Evil 1, but his deadly clones also make appearances in Resident Evil 2. In the sequel, he's known simply as Mr. X, but regardless of which form of the tyrant you encounter, he is a behemoth to take down. As is typical in a Resident Evil boss fight, there are multiple encounters with the tyrant. Chris and Jill initially take him down in an underground lab after he plays shish kebab with Albert Wesker, but he re-emerges moments later on the helipad. After a tense exchange and a major rocket assist from Brad Vickers, Tyrant is defeated, but not soon forgotten. Umbrella did not make the same mistake twice, as a Tyrant clone was created months later and unleashed on an apocalyptic Raccoon City to retrieve the last G-Virus sample. Ultimately, Mr. X felt like the blueprint for what would become Nemesis in the following game. One of the most iconic bosses in the series, Nemesis is the embodiment of the Resident Evil boss fight. Multiple encounters, grotesque in nature, and relentless in its pursuit of you. Nemesis's commitment to ending the STARS team is what makes him so grandiose. Bioengineered by Umbrella, Nemesis is sent to Raccoon City to destroy the remaining members of the Special Ops Squad in order to leave no trace of the company's viral atrocities. After picking off some of the weaker members, Nemesis spends most of his time hunting down Joe Valentine, and the hunt is downright terrifying. Nemesis is unpredictable the first time you play through Resident Evil 3. Your only signal to his arrival is the synth-heavy soundtrack that plays as you walk through the environment. When he appears, you have to act quickly and decide whether you will take him head-on or run away. The latter choice, however, is anything but safe, as Nemesis craps on your feelings by busting through doors, windows, and walls, hoping to grab you for the killing blow. Nemesis keeps you on your toes through many encounters in the game. When Joe delivers the final blow, it's immensely satisfying to rid yourself of one of the series' best villains. What's your favorite villain in the Resident Evil series? Be sure to let us know in the comments below.